1 second, you're in a Ferrari going 150 miles per hour. And then... these are the soccer players that almost died. For Cristiano Ronaldo, just 3 days after buying his dream car, an accident changed his life forever. On January 8th, 2009, it was an unusual morning for Ronaldo because his coach had called for an early practice after Manchester had just suffered a heartbreaking loss. So Ronaldo's teammates were counting on him to be there, but he was nowhere to be found. See, Ronaldo had overslept. Eventually, he woke up and saw all the notifications, so he jumped out of bed immediately. Now, we all know Ronaldo takes his game seriously, so not showing up to practice was unacceptable. But he only had 20 minutes to get all the way across the city, and he was not going to disappoint. There was one car in his garage that could get that job done, but little did he know, getting into that car would be the biggest mistake of his life. Damn, man. Ronaldo was just starting to make a name for himself. And now, he was crawling out of a Ferrari that was completely totaled. The fact that Ronaldo walked away without a single scratch on his body, it was a miracle. From that point on, he made it his life's mission to dedicate everything to the sport and to become the greatest soccer player to ever touch a field. But ironically, for Lionel Messi, trying to do that nearly cost him his life. Back in 2017, Messi was about to play one of the biggest games of his career. Barcelona was going up against Juventus in a heavily anticipated Champions League matchup. Juventus had already won the first leg 3-0, so Messi knew if he didn't have the game of his life, he was heading home. As soon as Messi ran onto that field, he was prepared for anything, or at least that's what he thought. Throughout the first half, both teams desperately pushed forward. Their legacies were at stake. Whoever won was heading to the semifinals. They battled it out, blood, sweat, and tears, but neither side managed to score a single point. Then, as the half was coming to a close, Messi made one last high-effort play, but that nearly cost him everything. Doctors later realized that if he had landed just 2 millimeters higher, that neck injury would have killed him. Despite Barcelona losing that game, Messi was a very lucky man. But see, most disasters happen off the field. Like for Matheus Silva, this man nearly lost his life on vacation. Back in 2017, it was about to be the 4th of July, and Silva and his teammates were hyped. They wanted to celebrate, so they decided to drive to Lake Tahoe and enjoy the beach a little. Since it was the 4th, they knew the beach would be packed, and they had a game later that day. So they planned to pull up early, around 6 a.m. But little did they know, things were about to get crazy. The next morning, the boys all hopped in the same car, turned on some bangers, you already know how it goes, and went on their little road trip. As soon as they arrived at the beach, Silva just lost control. He saw the sand, the water, and he couldn't help himself. He felt like a little kid again. Without thinking, he ran straight for the lake and dove in. And honestly, it was kind of beautiful. The way the sun was bouncing off the water, he looked like Michael Phelps out there. The boys watched him swim all the way out to the buoys, but then it happened. Out of nowhere, Silva started screaming for help. At first, the boys thought he was just trolling, until he went under. Their hearts dropped. They raced into the lake and jumped in after him. But by the time they got to Silva, it was too late. He wasn't breathing, and he had no pulse. They swam him to shore and tried to think fast. Luckily, a lifeguard came running to the rescue and started CPR. But it wasn't working. They had no choice but to keep trying. 2 days later, Silva woke up, dazed, confused, and in a hospital bed. It turned out he had been in a coma. When he jumped into that lake, the water was freezing. His body went into shock, and his heart stopped. He was lucky his friends were there, because they literally saved his life. After news spread that Silva would recover, his teammate Chris Wondolowski paid tribute to him in their next game, wearing his number 38 and even scoring a goal in his honor. Almost drowning. That's something you live with forever. But imagine almost not even making it to your first birthday. For Neymar, that was reality. What happened in 1992 scarred him for life, literally. At the time, Neymar was only 4 months old. He, his dad, and his mom were driving to visit relatives. But that's when things turned deadly. Living in Brazil, the family was driving up the mountains when, out of nowhere, a ridiculous storm hit. It wasn't just typical rain. It was storming so bad they couldn't even see what was right in front of them. Then came the lights. The family was in an accident, and everyone was hurt. Even though it was storming, Neymar's dad remembers everything. He said, "A car came toward me. I tried to swerve, but it hit us full on my door. My left leg landed on top of the other, dislocating my hip. I was desperate. I said to my wife, 'I'm dying.' But my worst fear was my next thought. Where was Junior?" The car was hit so hard that Neymar literally disappeared. The family had no idea where he went. His dad looked everywhere, inside the car, on the street, outside, even in the bushes. Nothing. They couldn't find him until they heard crying. It was Neymar. He was trapped under the driver's seat, covered in blood. His head had been cut by a piece of glass. The family had no choice. They rushed to the hospital. Neymar came face to face with death, and he wasn't even old enough to understand what was happening. When his dad found out he was going to be okay, all he could do was thank God. From that day on, he knew Neymar was blessed. Now, as scary as Neymar's situation was, nothing compares to Angel Di María, living every day with a target on his back. And lately, things have gotten so crazy, people literally came after his entire family. At the beginning of 2021, Angel and his PSG teammates were all smiles. Their team was off to a great start to the season, and they were proving people wrong. But during one heavily anticipated match, something unbelievable happened. Throughout the first half, PSG started off strong, leading 1-0. Everything was looking good. But then, during the 62nd minute, everyone's phones started ringing like crazy. Out of nowhere, Angel was escorted off the field, right in the middle of the game. What was going on? His family was in danger. It turns out some criminals had their eyes on Angel's house. They knew when he'd be gone, and as soon as they realized it was game day, they saw their opportunity. While only Angel's wife and 2 daughters were home, the criminals broke in and held them hostage. They ran around grabbing everything valuable they could find, including Angel's entire $600,000 jewelry collection. They jumped into a getaway car and escaped, like a real-life GTA heist. And what's crazy is, this wasn't even the first time his house had been broken into. After that, Angel had no choice but to hire private security, because now it was more than just his own life at risk.